I'm under this GL450 and I'm doing what I consider a very important 40K service. And that's transmission fluid, filter, and transfer case. Do them at the same time. Do them every 40K. And there's a reason I recommend doing them at the same time, and I'm going to explain that in this video. This is the transfer case right here. Here's the drain plug, here's the fill plug. Now on the transmission, you don't have a drain and fill plug. You have one plug. That's where you drain it, and that's where you fill it. Yes, you have to use a pressure tank to fill these 722.9 transmissions from underneath. This is the pressure tank that I use for servicing these 722.9 transmissions. This is the tank I sell on my website. This is the attachment that comes with it to allow you to connect to the bottom of the transmission pan. You have two valves. If you do this according to my instructions, you can do this procedure with very little spill, because people complain that they got fluid all over the place trying to do this. Now you can use the same tank to fill both the transmission and the transfer case, but you're going to use a different fitting. Watch this. If I take this fitting off for the transmission and I include this extra wand in my kit, you attach this wand here like this, tighten it down, and see, now I'm ready to fill the transfer case. And of course this hook will just stay in there, so it's not going to drop out and splatter all over your lap. I'm going to try to explain why I do these two services at the same time, and it does save time if you do it this way. Number one, when you do the service on the transmission, you have to run the engine, get the engine up to temperature 45 degrees centigrade on the fluid in the pan before you can check level. Now, if you do this, if you got jack stands, you're doing it on a lift, you have to run the engine a long time, especially if it's cold. So I like to drive the car, go out and drive the car and bring it back and say, well, Kent, that's a big hassle. I gotta, put this car down, drive it back. But let me explain why you want to do this when you're dealing with the transfer case as well. Regarding the transfer case, I strongly urge you to consider doing a dual flush. That's correct. You're going to do it twice, because most of the time this transfer case fluid does not get changed every 40K. And when you finally get around to changing it, it's going to look like this. Dark, ugly. This is the first flush on this transfer case. So what I do is I fill it and I go drive the car. So if you do these two together, you can get them both filled, go out and drive the car. I went and drove the car this morning. I brought it back here on the lift. Now I'm going to recheck level of the transmission fluid, and I'm going to do the second flush on the transfer case. Now, if you've been looking at this tank and looking at this hose, you'll notice that the fluid is red. And yes, that is the correct fluid for the early model 722.9 up to 2011. That is the transmission without the code A89. Now, the later ones used a green fluid. If you're doing the early version of the 722.9, guess what? The same fluid, the 134 fluid that you use in the transmission, is the same fluid that we're going to be putting in this transfer case. That's another reason you want to do these services at the same time. I want you to watch closely as I do this second flush on this transfer case, because when I'm done, we're going to compare the fluid that comes out of here with the fluid that you saw earlier. Remember, there's no filter in the transfer case, and it takes less than a liter of fluid. That's one reason you want to change it every 40K, but it's another reason why you want to do a dual flush every 40K. I've actually saved, quote unquote, a couple of transfer cases that were causing severe shudder while turning by just doing a double flush on the transfer case. The first thing is I want to make sure that both plugs are going to be free, and we'll take this top one out because we want it to vent. Then I'll loosen up the bottom one. Make sure to position your drain pan like this, because this will shoot out. Don't just put it directly under the hole. Now this is hot because I've just come back from a test drive to heat everything up to do this second drain. We already checked fluid level in the transmission. Oh, see that? Look at that. See why you want that pan back? Now look, that's nice red fluid. That's the 134 transmission fluid that you use in those early 722.9 transmissions. So I'm just going to let this sit here and drip for about 10 minutes before I put this plug back in, and then we'll use the tank to fill from this hole right here. Okay, I let it drain for a while, and then we put this plug back in and tighten it down. You could see the advantage of driving the car, bringing it in, and doing this flush with it hot. Look at how much fluid came out of that, and look at how fast it came out rather than doing it cold. And of course, we brought it in to check the transmission level, and we needed to get that transmission fluid up to 45 degrees centigrade. So we're doing dual service here, and we're saving time. Now this is a gallon pressure tank, so I've got, close to 2 quarts in here, liter and a half or whatever. So I have plenty of fluid in the tank. In preparation, particularly on my tank, it has a pressure relief valve, so you want to make sure that's closed, and then you want to make sure that this is tight here. Okay, not too tight because they're hard to get off, but that's tight enough. See, there's a rubber seal in there. Most people over tighten this. The rubber seal is more than adequate. If you tighten this too tight, you're going to have a real hard time getting it off. And then, this is really important. You want to make sure that it's shut off before you start building pressure. If this is on like this, you're going to start pumping and immediately it's going to start dripping out. So I'm going to make sure this is closed, and now I'm going to start building pressure, and you'll see the fluid, coming up into the hose here. And I just build enough pressure in the tank to where I start feeling a little bit of back pressure against my pumping here. You can say, oh yeah, that's getting to be enough pressure. Okay. Then we're just going to bring this up to the hole. We're going to put it in like that. And I can actually leave it, but I don't because it's going to start filling and it will overfill. We want to fill this until this starts running out, and then we're going to stop. Open the valve. And I can monitor the tank here too. See? So I want it to get down to about there. So I keep an eye on this, and it takes a while, but you can see it gradually coming down here. So I'll come back when we're getting close and show you how we want to set that top level in the upper hole. See where we're at? Now let's look up at the hole. Okay, we're running out, so I'm going to shut the valve off. Don't drain it out until it just is not dripping at all. It's okay if it's a little overfull. I would rather have this a little overfull than too low. So I'm just going to wait until it starts to drip here. See, look, we're almost to a drizzle there. And it's just barely coming out. So I'm going to call that good. We're going to put the upper plug in and run it in all the way by hand. Don't put a wrench on it until you get this all the way in. And then make sure you tighten this before you do anything else. Check this out. You can see the red from the fluid on that first flush. But look, there's also this darker fluid that's kind of settled out in the bottom of the pan. And then you're going over to the first flush and see how filthy that first drain was on this GL450 transfer case. So this is the reason I always recommend a dual flush on your Mercedes 4MATIC transfer cases.